On with all these celebrities and their appearances? Did they all sell their souls or what? Let's talk about the most shocking case. Look at Miley Cyrus. The photos you're seeing now weren't taken that far apart. Normally, we all age naturally. That's just how life goes. But even if her aging process was sped up somehow, this kind of change isn't normal. How the hell can someone's appearance change this much in just a month or two? Something's off. She's hiding something. Look at the photo. This is her just a month later. What the hell happened to Miley Cyrus?
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? You guys know what we like to do here, man. We break down scary, creepy videos that's gonna make us question everything. Let's do we do best, seekers. Stay with me, y'all. Let's seek the truth.
This woman got 0 prison time after stabbing her boyfriend 108 times. In 2018, 26-year-old Chad O'Melia's life was savagely taken in his apartment in California by his girlfriend. 33-year-old Bryn Spetcher says that on this day, she was tricked by Chad into smoking a highly potent strain of marijuana, which caused her to go into psychosis. She says that she remembers immediately walking into the kitchen and grabbing several knives and stabbed her dog before going after Chad and taking his life. Authorities also said that it wasn't easy restraining Bryn and that the taser didn't even work on her. Now, Bryn's defense argues that she reacted this way because she only smoked less than 6 times in her life, which that combined with the high potent marijuana explains why she took her boyfriend's life. Bryn ended up only receiving just 2 years of probation, 100 hours of community service, and no prison time.
Wow. Okay, we're gonna look. What the hell is a terminus?
An orangutan was kept in a brothel, dressed up, and forced to live like a human. Pony was taken from the wild as a baby in Borneo after her mother disappeared. Instead of freedom, they trapped her in a place where she was treated like a possession, but not kindly. They kept her in a brothel made to wear clothes and makeup and forced her to be around people all day long. Really sad and disgusting part is this wasn't a secret, this wasn't hidden. Many people in the village knew what was happening. In fact, when a team arrived to rescue her, they faced resistance. Some locals did not want Pony to leave. It took a huge effort from a lot of people to be able to bring her to safety. So sad. Like, after the rescue, Pony was deeply traumatized. She even forgot how to behave like an orangutan and had to relearn basic skills like eating natural food or climbing trees. Pony's story really shows us why protecting wild animals in their home is so important. This is not the only story like this, as crazy as that is. Without this kind of protection, animals can suffer in ways that people could never even imagine. What do you think should be done to help animals like Pony? Follow for more.
Moral of the
What do
story,
you think?
don't sleep on the first floor. In 2014, a young woman woke up to strange noises coming from under her bed. When she finally worked up the courage to look, there was nothing there. The next morning when she got up, there were footprints leading right up to the sliding door that went right into her room. She instantly calls her dad, who comes over and traces the footsteps back to a house of a very troubled teen who admitted to spying on her. But he swore up and down he hadn't done that in weeks. They don't believe him, and they threaten to call the police if they ever see him on the property again. That night, the girl's on her phone in bed when she starts to hear the strange sounds again.
Okay, it's breathing, bro. Oh, hell no. I've been to Jets, I'm gone.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew. Part 18. A man from Queens once spent 5 months in jail completely unaware that his bail was just $2. Since spiders molt, when you see what you might think is a dead spider, it could just be that the spider left behind its exoskeleton and is now bigger than before. Almost everyone on Earth is walking around with a bunch of poop inside of them. Scientists accidentally killed the world's oldest living animal, which was a clam that lived to be 507 years old. Statistically speaking, at least one person who comments on this video will not be alive tomorrow. The real reason you shouldn't eat raw cookie dough isn't because of getting sick from eating raw eggs. It's because you shouldn't eat raw flour, which contains fecal matter from all the birds flying over the field and pooping on the wheat.
Okay. Well, I never ate wallflower before. Don't plan to do that. Where he at? Feel like something washing him, bro. I don't like his vibe.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. Horror movies use tracks that include infrasounds. They cannot be heard by human ears, but they are known to induce anxiety and heart palpitations. 44% of the information shared on worldwide news is inaccurate. To date, the US lost 6 nuclear bombs and never recovered them. According to paranormal experts, when you have a nightmare, real spirits or demons are trying to contact you, but your body rejects them and wakes you up for safety. In 1954, a man arrived at an airport and had a passport issued by the country of Tory, which does not exist. Police locked him in a high-secure room and he vanished. There are computers for the Amish, which have no internet, videos, or music. There are organizations that manipulate the stock market. Spending just a few months in Antarctica can shrink your brain. There's a lot more, like for part 7.
How? It's too cold there, bro.
This is the first picture the world has ever seen where Putin, Xi Jinping, and Kim Jong-un are all together. And the significance of this gathering cannot be understated. Today, we witnessed China put on the largest military parade in their history. All major roads were closed, schools were shut down, and they even had weeks of midnight rehearsals and security preparations to make sure that today went off without a hitch. One by one, world leaders started arriving, most of which are the names that you would expect, like Kim, Putin, etc. In fact, the good old Kim, it took him 20 hours just to get to China, because he got there on his infamous slow armored bulletproof train, traveling between only 45 and 80 kilometers an hour. However, also attending were world leaders that in the past few decades, they lent more to the West, like Turkey, Egypt, and Vietnam. In fact, no Western leaders attended, apart from 2. We're looking at you, Serbia and Slovakia. And when Donald Trump saw that Putin, Kim, and Xi were having a 2.5-hour private closed-door meeting, he tweeted this: "May President Xi and the wonderful people of China have a great lasting day of celebration. Please give my warmest regards to Putin and Kim Jong-un as you conspire against the United States." Now, it wasn't just what they spoke about that will be of concern of Western leaders watching. It'll also be the new weapons that China unveiled. These included new powerful laser weapons capable of taking out swarms of drones, burning electronics, or even blinding pilots, new nuclear ballistic missiles with a range capable of striking U.S. mainland, giant underwater unmanned drones, and also a number of weapons which display China's heavy investment in the future of warfare, including drones, smart tanks, AI-assisted weaponry, and of course, even robot dogs. In fact, today on Chinese social media, all of the top searches were about the parade and its weapons, including the 4th one talking about their new ICBMs having the striking range that covers the entire world. But for Xi Jinping, what means more than showing off new weaponry is showing off a new world order, one that challenges the West and its allies, but also one where China is positioned right in the center. In fact, in Xi's speech overlooking the military parade, he said, "The rise of the Chinese nation is unstoppable. Strength may prevail for a time, but over the long arc of history, it's reason that wins." So the question is Donald Trump's foreign policy pushing these countries together to strengthen their relations, or was what we saw today inevitable and would have happened no matter who was in office?
We have some crazy
Post
things
down
going
below.
on. The Telegram founder says that he has fathered more than 100 children. A Mississippi man spent 940 days in jail waiting for a trial that never came. The Swiss government has now forbidden the use of donkeys to protect against wolf attacks. What happened there? A woman came out and said that she went blind after doing 13 cartwheels in a row. A Turkish town was accidentally hotboxed after police burned 20 tons of weed. A 9-year-old boy lived alone for 2 years after being abandoned by his mother, surviving on scraps from neighbors without any hot water or heating while still attending school and excelling academically. The demand for Ozempic is so high that it has boosted Denmark's entire economy, and in Sweden they were forced to put a footnote on their quarterly GDP report because Taylor Swift caused such a short huge spike in their growth. A teenager left her shoe at a Danish prince's birthday party, hoping for a Cinderella-like effect. And it worked because the palace posted a picture of her shoe on Instagram with a caption asking if it was Cinderella. I said Cinderella. Cinderella, send. 75% of all Americans now prioritize finances over love when finding a partner to marry.
And this is why you
Says
should
about that
never
corn.
kiss a baby on the lips.
This is a result of somebody kissing her on the mouth. When parents say not to kiss your children, this is one of the reasons.
This is a recent photo of 8-year-old Breland. She was born healthy, but as a baby, she was kissed on the lips by someone who had a cold sore, and her life changed forever. So after this happened, she began having seizures and became extremely sick. And since as a baby, your immune system is not developed, the HSV infection attacked her brain and left her with a severe brain injury. Her mother explains that the left side of her brain is 60% damaged and the right side is 10% damaged. And because of this, Breland has never been able to walk or talk, and doctors don't even know how long she'll live. There was actually another child in the past who had the same thing happen to them, and they only lived until the age of 7.
NASA doesn't want you to know that they just
Crazy.
woke up Cthulhu. Back on August 21st, they announced that there was going to be this mission called Operation Deep Cave. And what they told the public is that it was for research purposes, which was mainly true. But on day 5 of the investigation, they sent out ships with submarines because they thought they found something on the ocean floor. And these submarines were looking for the entrance to a very specific cave, which after a while they found. And I don't know if you can tell what I'm trying to say, but these caves were a little abnormally large, like they could be holding something. Like something very big could have been living in these caves for thousands of years without us realizing it. Now, one of the subs bumped into a wall in the cave and a bunch of rocks fell down, revealing like this whole other area of the cave that they didn't know was there. They heard a really loud bang and then it was silent for a while. There's footage, don't worry. And then what we found out this morning is they heard a roar and the cave began to shake. And some creature emerged from the deep. And this creature was about 150 feet tall. And this morning they released the documents and the footage and the rest of that story, and people believe that this is Cthulhu. Now I would show you the footage, but this is a creepypasta, so there is none. Send this to a friend to prank them, and hit the plus for more. It really helps when you interact.
She almost got me,
Has
bro.
been walking for 9 years. He's walking from Ethiopia to the tip of South America to retrace the path of early human migration. This guy is a journalist who has won 2 Pulitzer Prizes. He could be like sitting in a Manhattan apartment somewhere, and instead he's walking across basically the entire planet. He's already made it from Ethiopia to China on foot. He's been walking for 9 years. Along the way, he's interviewing local folks from some of the most remote places in the world, unreachable by car. He does a really good job of centering local stories. He's not even shown in most of the footage. This video is not sponsored. I just think this is one of the coolest projects in the world that people don't really seem to know about. It's called the Out of Eden Walk. It falls under the umbrella of National Geographic, but does not have very many followers on social media or anything. Like, it doesn't seem to be that well known, which is crazy because it's like one of the coolest things anyone on the planet is doing right now. I don't know how long he's going to be doing this for. He probably has another 9 years. I don't know.
Would you walk for 9 years?
Babysitting always freaks me out. So in 2014, Sarah DeWalt was babysitting for a new family that had just moved into her neighborhood in Ohio. The family consisted of 2 young children under 10, but when Sarah showed up that night, the parents kept talking as if they had 3 children. There were 3 sets of pajamas laid out, there were 3 bowls of ice cream on the counter, but the family clearly only had the 2 kids. So that night, Sarah and the kids are winding down watching a movie when all of a sudden Sarah starts hearing noises in the house. There were footsteps shuffling like someone else was there, and she had this overwhelming feeling that she was being watched. So she gets up to check on the noise, but then the kids turn to her and say, "Oh, that's Bonnie, don't bother her." Sarah leaves it because she's freaked out, but then later that night she goes to check the nanny cam and she sees this image captured in the hallway. She stayed up until the parents came home, but she never went back after that.
Who's Bonnie, bro? Babysitting kids, man, you gotta be careful. It's raining and he's out there in the middle of the night just recording. I don't think so.
This is why you should always sleep with your lights on. In 1991, a man named Christopher Case was found dead in his bathtub, fully clothed in the fetal position. When police interviewed his best friend Sammy, she told them about a very disturbing phone call she got from him the night before he died. On the call, he told her that the previous night he had woken up to what sounded like whispering coming from underneath his bed. When he went to look, he couldn't move. As he laid helplessly, he watched a black figure pull itself out from underneath his bed. Once it was fully upright, it reached down and began choking him until he passed out. The next morning when he came to, he felt his neck and it was swollen and bruised. And then he saw blood on his hands and he saw that there were deep, uniform incisions on each of his fingertips. As he's saying all this to Sammy and telling her how scared he is to go to bed that night, he suddenly stops and he says, "I hear whispering outside my room." Then the phone went dead.
Truly disturbing image. A Mexican TikToker and her family were recently found wrapped in plastic and dumped in their pickup truck. Along with Esmeralda was her husband and 2 children, which were only 7 and 13 years old. In fact, this happened in the same state that TikToker Valeria Marquez was killed in just a few months ago. And the family's bodies were found on August the 22nd inside a van that had been abandoned at a mechanic's shop. Police arrested 3 men who were described as the managers of the mechanic shop, but they were later released due to insufficient evidence linking them to the crime. Local media report that those men were then kidnapped after leaving Jalisco's prosecutor's office. According to initial investigations, the attack was not directed at Esmeralda, but rather her husband.
Scary Things You Know Are Real, Episode 2. Have you ever just put in headphones and been listening to music very, very loud and thinking that you heard someone, or you heard someone call your name or a door shut? That was literally just a ghost letting you know that they're there. Pretty much like a "what's up, dude?" Pretty fucking creepy. Have you ever just been laying in bed and wondering why you hear that noise on your roof? Well, that's probably a ghost and you should be aware because he is coming. I don't know what he's coming for. Maybe he's coming to get some snacks or some shit. I really don't know, but please stay away. At least for me. Have you ever just been in the shower and thought that someone was watching you, even if it's through like the door or even the shower curtain? Trust me, you are not imagining it. Bathrooms are actually one of the #1 spots ghosts and demons actually hang out. I know it sounds stupid, but genuinely, that's like their home. That's like where they be at. I can't be the only person. Every single time I'm walking at night, I always feel like someone's watching me. You hit the nail on the head there, buddy. Someone is actually watching you. It is a ghost. Humans can actually feel the presence of a ghost. So that's why every time you're walking around at nighttime, if you're outside doing this and that, you always feel like someone's watching you. It's because there probably is someone, you just can't see them. You can only feel their presence. Drop a like and follow me on Instagram for more.
Ghost Facts, okay, he's putting us on, bro.
Here's some crazy history you definitely did not learn in school. This is a picture of Grand Central Station in 1929, and apparently it's not possible to take a picture like this anymore because the entire station is surrounded by buildings. And obviously that would block the sun rays. If TikTok existed in the 1920s, this would have been a trend called horse manning, where you basically pretend that you're headless by having another person in the photo. I guess it was a playful way for friends to be creative. Cool, let's not bring that back. OMG was first used in 1917. George Washington passed away with about $594 million in today's money of net worth. He was receiving a presidential salary of $25,000 or about $900,000 today. And apparently that was about 2% of the entire government's budget at the time. The old Danish criteria for common law marriage says that if you have a mistress that sleeps in your home for 3 winters and has a key, eats with you, sleeps with you, then you're married.
How all the rappers listened to Cross the Line, and we were all wrong about them. Even the biggest, most powerful names had to do something to go from regular stars to global icons. But let's get one thing straight. Nobody gets there with just talent and luck. And new rappers starting out, that's a whole different world. It's not like they drop a track and instantly lose their soul or something. In the beginning, it's a slow climb. They start buzzing. But at some point, they hit a wall. That point where you're no longer just an artist, you become a global brand. And it's usually right then that they make a critical choice behind the scenes, one nobody really notices. Travis Scott before Astroworld was already good, but after that album, whole different league. Playboy Carti, we don't even need to say much. The whole vibe around him is straight up dark, and he owns it. And when you actually listen to some of the lyrics, it's hard not to feel like they're coming from somewhere else entirely. Like it doesn't even sound like them anymore. Everyone here will have their own opinion and make their own judgment, but still, be careful what you're listening to, because sometimes it's not just music.
You'd be putting the music to distract us.
About women that are actually pretty crazy. Part 5. Taller women are more likely to have cancer, whereas shorter women are more likely to have smaller babies. I don't think that's a fair trade, but it's not my doings. In Greece, throwing an apple at a woman was considered a marriage proposal. Now, if anyone did that in America and they threw an apple at the woman they were trying to propose to, she would definitely walk up to him and calmly go, "Yo, why'd you throw that apple at me? That ain't cool. Now I'm gonna have to beat you, bruh." 80% of women will ask questions that they already know the answers to, and the reason being is they're not trying to interrogate us, they're just trying to see if we're listening and if we actually care about what they're saying. So, just pay attention, guys. A lot of women lose 2 to 3 hours of sleep every night due to overthinking, anxiety, worry, whatever that may look like. And I'm not saying guys don't do this too, but women are linked to having less serotonin, which helps them go to sleep. So women, if you're still up, get on the Xbox, play some COD, and smack some noobs for us.
Right.
Creepy facts will give you nightmares. Let's go. If someone murders you, there's a 1 in 3 chance that your killer will never be found. Scientifically speaking, trees could grow inside of our lungs. There are over 200 dead bodies on Mount Everest, and no one retrieves them because they serve as landmarks for the other hikers. If you die inside your home, your cat is going to want to eat you. The reason dogs like squeaky toys so much is because the squeak mimics the sound of their prey. And finally, tarantulas can swim. Ugh.
What the heck? It can? That's not fair for me.
Beyonce, you're done. They gotta constantly praise Beyonce because behind the scenes, she's way up there in the shadow hierarchy. Yeah, you heard that right. That dark side's slowly getting known by the public. It's actually really important that everyone knows, so share this video. If you've been paying attention, every year at the Grammys, some star praises Beyonce. This year, it was Miley Cyrus.
The Grammy goes to... Even if it's not you, Beyonce, I might just say this.
They gotta do it to remind the world she's above all the other stars, that she's the supreme star. That's what it means to be the supreme star. That's why she's been running the music game for so long. In that secret, well-structured hierarchy that Beyonce, Kim K, and plenty of other stars seem to belong to, Beyonce's got a special spot. She used her natural talent to grab the chance of a lifetime, which helped her reach that level of influence. Most people don't realize, but it must have taken her a long time to become the top goddess of their industry. And that's not even mentioning Jay-Z, who plays a big role in all of this. Let me know if you want to hear what happens when someone disrespects the hierarchy. I'll drop part 2.
We know Beyonce's, up there when it comes to the music industry, but yeah, I think she actually did something behind the scenes to get that spot. It could just be her natural talent. Same. It's 2025, we still here, bro. So anybody wrong?
This doll is 10 times more haunted and cursed than the Annabelle doll, and I don't know why nobody's talking about it. We all know the Annabelle doll as being one of the poster child of the Conjuring universe, on top of being one of the most haunted, if not the most haunted doll in the women's collection. Until I stumbled upon this photo of the Shadow doll, also owned in Anne Marie Warren's collection. This doll is said to be made of human bones and nails, constructed during a ritual. And it said that this doll's main purpose of construction was to curse you, infiltrating your dreams, and could even stop your heart. Word for word from Anne Marie Warren. Now look, do I think this doll can actually curse you through the photo? I have not gone to sleep yet, so I don't know. But I would venture to say that's not true. I would say maybe if you saw it in person, decided to take a picture, or talk to the doll in person, maybe you would be cursed. But through the picture, that's not going to happen. If the main idea of constructing this doll was to curse people, seeing it in person would definitely do something to you. Because we've heard the stories of people who decided to go and see the Annabelle doll, then gotten into absolutely terrible car accidents, almost losing their lives. Now I'm just saying, Annabelle is cool. Annabelle is a very cool story, and the poster child of the Conjuring universe. Why have we never had a movie based on the Shadow doll? This doll was made to curse people. It was made to look scary. I don't know, that's just me.
I don't know if I can visit Mexico.
Why?
Bro, they have the scariest urban legends.
For real?
Yeah, they got La La Chuza, which is a shape-shifting witch that looks like an owl and is 7 feet tall with the face of a woman. And you're not supposed to go outside if you hear whistling in your window.
What else?
Oh, La Llorona. She usually stays near bodies of water. She wears a white gown, long hair, and she's always crying for her children that she actually drowned. So you're next if you see her while driving on the side of the road.
Oh my god.
It's like this abandoned Disney park in Veracruz, Mexico.
What about it?
It has a statue that moves at night. There was 2 people exploring the abandoned park and caught it on video. Fam, you gotta check this out.
No, aguanta, deja.
Oh, he's
Deja
locked
que mi
in.
cámara enfoque bien, deja que mi cámara enfoque bien. Deja que mi cámara enfoque bien, güey, eso no es celular. No digas perras mamadas. No digas mamadas. Güey, es que era vestido también así, güey. Amarillo.
And it's static, frozen. I'm good. I'm good on Mexico.
But they do have beautiful women.
You right. We might have to risk it.
Yeah, I'm taking that risk, bro.
This is why you should never explore abandoned buildings. In 2013, 3 boys named Paul, Tim, and Max all lived in Louisiana. There were tons of abandoned houses in their neighborhood left over from Hurricane Katrina, and the boys all loved to explore them. One day, Paul asked his 2 friends to explore an abandoned hospital a few miles out of town. They agreed, and the 3 boys set off. They explored every floor of the hospital except for the basement. But upon walking down to the basement, they discovered that it was flooded with over 4 feet of water. They walked down the stairs and shined their lights on the murky water. It took them to the middle of a hallway, but they couldn't see down either side. Paul thought it would be a good idea to wade down the flooded hallway. His friends stayed back when all of a sudden there was a huge splash. Paul shined his flashlight down the basement and saw a huge creature swimming towards him. His friends began to scream at him, and Paul ran back to the staircase. The 3 boys escaped the hospital and went home to never return. They believe they heard an alligator, but will never be sure.
I think it was.
What is going on with all these celebrities and their appearances? Did they all sell their souls or what? Let's talk about the most shocking case. Look at Miley Cyrus. The photos you're seeing now weren't taken that far apart. Normally, we all age naturally. That's just how life goes. But even if her aging process was sped up somehow, this kind of change isn't normal. How the hell can someone's appearance change this much in just a month or 2? Something's off. She's hiding something. Look at the photo. This is her just a month later. What the hell happened to Miley Cyrus? Seriously? As far as we know, she didn't get any plastic surgery. Look around her eyes. It's like they're sinking in. That kind of thing doesn't just happen on its own. She went from this to whatever this weird version is. And it's the same exact thing with Demi Lovato. She went from that version of herself to this. That's literally night and day. Come on, tell me you all see the difference. This isn't just some small change. It's a huge transformation. She didn't just lose weight or switch up her makeup. Her whole face and body look different. It straight up looks like 2 completely different people. I need y'all to tell me what you think in the comments. Am I losing my mind, or is there seriously something wrong going on? Miley Cyrus, Ice Spice, who's the next victim? Whoever's behind all these changes seriously needs to stop, because this is starting to get scary.
Recent discoveries, part 4. Scientists have found an 18,000-year-old mummified puppy in Siberian permafrost with its teeth, nose, and whiskers still intact. DNA testing has not been able to determine whether Dogor is a wolf or dog, since it's possible that he represents a common ancestor to both. Last summer, a massive drought in Texas uncovered some fossilized footprints at Dinosaur Valley State Park, most likely belonging to a theropod called Acrocanthosaurus. The prints had been covered by water and sediment for over 113 million years. This incredible video shows archaeologists opening an ancient Egyptian sarcophagus in front of a crowd of people. The coffin contained the body of an ancient priest and had been sealed for over 2,500 years by this point. More than 100 old books, manuscripts, and documents, some 1,200 years old, were recently discovered in the attic of a church in Romania. The trove hadn't been touched in hundreds of years and contains lost information about Transylvania and its history.
You will not believe these people exist. At number 1, we have Pralajani, the man who only consumed air. This man lived in a remote cave in India and only came out once a year to visit his family. He had not drunk or eaten anything in over 70 years. Prahlad said the only nutrients he got yearly was just nectar that he put in his hair. Scientists, however, were curious to find out if this man was telling the truth and decided to run some tests. The test results came back and it was confirmed that this man had not drunk or eaten anything in 70 years. Next, Shaolin monks have trained themselves to have the ability to nearly walk on water, float in the air, and also do a handstand with just 1 or 2 fingers on the ground. Finally, we have the Iceman. And no, I am not talking about Drake. I am talking about this man named Wim Hof. He can withstand freezing temperatures and exposure to direct ice for long periods using his unique breathing techniques. And he once did an ice bath for 1.5 hours.
Damn.
By the way, all the pictures and clips you saw in this video were generated using the Meme Stories AI tool. All I did was paste my idea, picked a style, clicked generate, and got exactly what I wanted. If you want to try it, check the link in my bio or drop a comment. Baltimore?
Yo, what's up? These are the most horrifying ways to die. Part 2. Death by scaphism. Back around 500 BC is when scaphism was considered one of the most disturbing ways of execution and torture in the world. And here is why. Basically what happened is the victim would be thrown into a wooden coffin or boat, and their hands would be tied to the top and bottom of the boat. And they would be force-fed milk and honey to make them use the bathroom, so they would be covered in their own feces and sent upriver. And it wouldn't be until later on down the stream when insects would start to come and attack this victim, and they couldn't do anything about it. In fact, some would even go inside of their body, lay eggs, and they would be eaten from the inside out. Some of the victims would just go ahead and die from dehydration and starvation, but the others would die from infections inside of their body from the insects, parasites, and other things that were laid inside of it. And don't forget, it took a victim around 17 days to die, so that's how long they experienced the torture.
I'm in prison, starting with the one that shocked me the most, Phil Lewis, who played Mr. Mosby on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. He went to prison for manslaughter. So in 1991, way before The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody aired, Phil killed a 21-year-old girl while drinking and driving. But he was released early and only served 1 year because of the work he did in prison. Next, we got Debbie Ryan, who played Bailey Pickett on The Sweet Life on Deck. When Debbie was 22 years old, she was arrested and charged with a DUI after she crashed a car with another person and severely injured them. Okay, this one's crazy. Back in 2018, Adam Hicks, who starred in Zeke and Luther, was arrested after going around pointing guns at people and robbing them with the help of his girlfriend, Danny. He ended up getting only 5 years in prison, and now he's pursuing his music career and he's on TikTok. Now, this one definitely caught me off guard because Mitchell Musso played such an innocent kid on Hannah Montana, but he was arrested for public intoxication on August 26th of this year when he apparently stole a bag of chips from a store, but he denies this ever happened. Mitchell was also arrested back in 2011 when he was 20 years old for a DUI. Let me know which one surprised you the most, because mine was Mr. Mosby.
Yeah, it was Mr. Mosby for me as well. You never would have guessed that.
Do you think ghosts can help solve cold cases? Well, throughout history, there's been reports of ghosts coming back to tell their loved ones who killed them, like the story of Fred Fisher. And if you're interested in these kind of stories, I just did a podcast episode on the most famous one. So in 1826, an Australian man by the name of Fred Fisher disappeared into thin air. But this never sat right with his best friend John, because Fred seemed to have left in the middle of the night and didn't take any of his stuff with him. Fred's neighbor claimed that he had gone back to England and had named him the power of attorney. And then his neighbor starts selling all of Fred's stuff. So John starts thinking that something is not right. So one night, months later, John is walking down the street, he's had a few drinks, and right when he's passing Fred's property, he sees a ghostly figure standing in his yard. It looks exactly like Fred, but he's completely pale with like this dead stare. And the figure just lifts one hand slowly and points past John to a creek that's behind him. So the next day, John goes down to the creek right around where this apparition was telling him to go, and sure enough, he finds Fred's body. Not only did this ghost lead John to Fred's body, but it also led to the arrest of the sketchy neighbor for his murder. This full story and more this week on the pod.
Ghosts coming back and telling their side of the story wasn't in a...
In 1992, the body of Aglina Diaz de Leon was found right here in this church courtyard. My fiance and I host the podcast Murder in America, and we decided to visit this church on a sunny day last month so we could tell Aglina's story to all of you guys. In 1992, Aglina was found right here in the courtyard of the building, nude, and her throat had been slashed after she was strangled. For 10 years after the crime, nobody had a clue who killed Aglina, and it was a national mystery. That is, until one day in 2002, when police finally got a lead through DNA. Witnesses saw a man named Guadalupe Sandoval near the scene of the crime the night that it happened, and DNA linked him 10 years later to the murder. In the meantime, he had married and raised 2 kids. You never know who you're marrying, I guess.
Truly don't, and it sounds like he got away with it too. Sickening.
The Muffin Man is actually a serial killer. You know the Muffin Man nursery rhyme, right? But did you know it was based on a dark, true story? 1 second. Chocolate chip. Tastes like your mama booted. But yeah, the story is darker than you think. Because in the 1800s, there was a man named Frederick Thomas Linwood. And he would wait lurking in alleys, looking for his next victims. And they would always be kids. You see, he would kidnap them and unalive them, luring them in with muffins. McDonald's. I mean, what kid wouldn't want a tasty snack? When the townspeople got word of what was happening, they decided to come together and figure out a way to prevent this, to spread awareness amongst the kids and keep them safe, warning them about the Muffin Man, who was a danger on Drury Lane. You're walking past the alleyway and the Muffin Man gets you. Your fourth act sees this and tries to rescue you. Let me know who it is and let me know if you think you'd be doomed or not. Anyways, he's one of the first documented serial killers in the world. And everyone still teaches this song to their kids, even children TV shows. And yet nobody knows that
The Muffin Man. I heard about that because of Shrek, bro. You know, the Muffin Man scene between Gingerbread Man and Lord Farquaad. Classic.
Nobody has been able to explain this creepy viral video. For the past 11 years, a man who runs a TikTok account by the name of Dude, My House is Haunted has been pretty confident that there has been some paranormal activity within his home. He claims that ever since his wife passed away, there have been some strange and unusual things going on. So eventually, he decided to leave cameras out and record what was happening and post it onto TikTok, which is the footage that you are about to see. In this video, you can see a chair seemingly moving on its own. It moves somewhat slowly until it suddenly is violently pulled into the corner by the kitchen. A mysterious, shadowy figure can be seen moving behind the chair, and then suddenly out of nowhere, the chair is thrown into the kitchen. Now, of course, we're not really sure what happened in this video, but I'm having a hard time coming up with an explanation for this one.
Or it could just be an edit. Simple as that.
Insanely dark facts and things that have happened at Disney World. When Disney had first opened way back in the 70s, Walt Disney had originally hired spies. He would station them around the park so they could eavesdrop on the guests and get a feel for how they actually liked the experience. It's pretty much common knowledge that Disney does have an underground tunnel system, but did you know that that system runs a full 9 acres under the park, and people have actually gotten lost down there? Roughly 10 or so years ago, there was an incident that was reported near Space Mountain when a guest tried to sneak on a duffel bag. When employees found out and they asked to search it, they found inside a 6-month-old baby. Why this parent was trying to sneak a baby onto a roller coaster, we do not know. In a lesser-known incident that Disney actually covered up pretty well, in 2004, a 38-year-old cast member who was playing Pluto was run over by the Beauty and the Beast float during the opening parade. Although clearly deceased at the scene, Disney refused to declare the death until the body was brought outside of the park.
Things companies to do for money, man.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew. Part 18. A man from Queens once spent 5 months in jail completely unaware that his bail was just $2. Since spiders molt, when you see what you might think is a dead spider, it could just be that the spider left behind its exoskeleton and is now bigger than before, around with a bunch of poop inside of it. Scientists accidentally killed the world's oldest living animal, which was a clam that lived to be 507 years old. Statistically speaking, at least one person who comments on this video will not be alive tomorrow. The real reason you shouldn't eat raw cookie dough isn't because of getting sick from eating raw eggs. It's because you shouldn't eat raw flour, which contains fecal matter from all the birds flying over the field and pooping on the wheat.
I bet you didn't know that these 3 myths aren't true. So the first one is that if you swallow chewing gum, your stomach will take 7 years to digest it. And that's just not true. And that's totally cap, because if you swallow some gum, it'll only take about 2 to 4 days to pass through your entire system.
Wow.
The second myth is that cracking your knuckles will give you arthritis. Scientists have not yet discovered a correlation between cracking your knuckles and arthritis. However, over time it can lessen your grip strength. And at number 3, we have the myth that sugar makes kids hyper. I totally thought this one was true, but scientists say that it's completely false. While it has been proven that sugar can change your mood and make you feel more active, there's no real connection between kids being hyper and the consumption of sugar.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna have to call Cap on that last one, bro. Because if you get some kids some sugar, bro, they'll be freaking hyper, man, running all around the place, man. I don't believe that last one. Like I said, when we watch these videos together with you guys, we always gotta do our own research. Where he at? The middle of the night. Could not be me.
AC is not working. Look at everyone. So many people, they are using these magazines. AC is not working at all. And as usual, your TV screens are also not working. Neither this button for calling the cabin crew. Nothing is working. Nothing. Not even the light is working. See. This is what you are providing. And as usual, that is why Air India is considered as one of the worst airlines in the world.
We all know how that ended.
These are
Tragic.
facts that make death even scarier. Up first, since the first ever human being, about 108 billion people have died. If you just stop and think about that for a second, it's actually impossible to wrap your head around. Every single human being you've ever read about has lived on this planet and died. Next up, we've all heard the phrase, he died of old age. But that is a complete myth. You don't actually die from old age, but instead all the sicknesses and diseases that come with getting old. Getting old is actually awful and is probably one of the worst things about being a human. Finally, by the time you finish this video, 150 to 200 people will have died. People die every second of the day, which should make you stop and appreciate your life right now. Because it could be gone within seconds.
You're spitting at the end, man. You gotta appreciate the time we have now.
Can you imagine living with someone that you know is trying to end your life? This hidden camera captures a moment this woman puts bleach inside her husband's coffee maker multiple times a day. This is Robbie Johnson, and he began setting up cameras all around his house when he started to notice that his coffee was tasting a little off. He wasn't really expecting to catch anything, but when he looked back at the footage, he was shocked. His wife Melody is seen pouring a substance inside his coffee maker every single day before he brewed the coffee. Robbie got testing strips, and each time it tested positive for chlorine. At this time, Robbie and Melody were in the process of a divorce, but they were still living together. Robbie pretended to drink his coffee every morning and continued to gather evidence so that he can go to police. But when he showed police all this footage, they said that they couldn't see exactly what Melody was pouring into the coffee maker, so he couldn't prove it. So Robbie had to set up even more cameras around the house with different angles so that it can prove that Melody was in fact poisoning him. Melody was charged with attempted murder, and I bet this guy will never let anyone else make him a coffee again.
Damn right. Now, after seeing that.
Today I'm going to be asking my haunted doll about S-walkers. I won't say their name because people don't like saying their name. So if you don't know what an S-walker is, basically it's this creature that's been seen throughout history. A lot of Native American culture believes in these walkers and believe that they are demonic entities that kind of pose themselves as animals or different types of species. So I'm going to ask my haunted doll what she thinks of them, if she believes in them. The link to the Spirit Box app I use is in my bio. Lola, do you believe in S-walkers? Yes, she does. Have you ever come across one before? Yes. That was a really quick yeah. Have you ever been attacked by an S-walker? No, that's good. They're dangerous. Are they dangerous to be around? Yes. I feel her getting very anxious about it. I think that's confirmation that she's anxious. Lola, do you think any of our followers have ever had an experience with S-walkers? Yeah, she thinks that maybe some of you have. Will you keep our followers safe from these creatures? Yes, she will. She'll always keep you guys safe. She'll do the best she can.
I don't know, what was that device just twisting how she communicated with that dog?
What's a missing persons case that still keeps you up at night? I always think about the disappearance of Nicholas Downey and how he completely disappeared after his rental car was found abandoned. So this is 37-year-old Nicholas Downey, and he was last seen on February 27th, 2023 in Bristol, Florida. At the time he was working in Bradenton, but he'd taken a week off to go and visit his wife Holly, who was staying at a rehabilitation center in Mississippi. For the trip, Nicholas rented a Tesla through the Turo app. He was on his way back home when on February 26th, he pulled off of Interstate 10 to recharge the Tesla behind a McDonald's in Marianna, Florida. Security footage shows that someone exited the vehicle to charge it, but the footage was too blurry to know if it was actually Nicholas getting out of the car. The person then gets back into the car before pulling on a State Road 71 heading south instead of getting back on the interstate. While this was happening, the car's owner was watching its progress on the Turo app and saw the direction it was heading. This worried the owner because the car wasn't heading back to Tampa as planned, and he already had the car scheduled to be rented out by another customer the following day. So he sent Nicholas a text message to make sure that he was okay, which would have showed up on the car's dashboard, but he never got a response back. Nicholas was scheduled to go back to work the morning of February 27th, but he never showed up. Instead, that morning, the Tesla he was renting was found abandoned in Liberty County, parked between Turkey Creek and Prison Road. This area is, I guess, known as the Stoke site. But Nicholas was nowhere to be found. The car only had a little bit of charge left and the windshield was damaged. Authorities found that the car at some point had driven under a cable, and this was confirmed when they found the cable in question about 1.5 miles away with the car's white paint on it. The police contacted the vehicle's owner, who was then able to remotely unlock it. And inside the car, police found 2 phones, one belonging to Nicholas and one belonging to his wife, who wasn't allowed to have a personal phone at the rehab center. Also inside the car was a change of clothes, a McDonald's receipt, a drone that Nicholas used for work, and an unknown substance. Authorities searched the area surrounding the car by land and air, and they even brought in tracking dogs, but no trace of Nicholas has ever been found. According to a sheriff that was on the scene, he said that there were hardly any footprints surrounding the car, and that something isn't adding up. His family didn't even know about his disappearance until a few days later on March 3rd when his wife was allowed to call him, but a deputy answered instead. The car rental was without contact and done through the Turo app, so the owner of the car never actually met Nicholas. And according to Nicholas's mom, she last spoke to him around 8:30 the night he went missing, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. She mentioned that Nicholas did struggle with alcohol and drugs in the past, but he's never just not reached out. They talk almost every day, so it's not like him to just disappear. It's now been a year and Nicholas is still missing. If you have any information about his disappearance at all, please contact the number on the screen.
Just vanished. That was a weird story. Through that Turo app, that's when they be using to rent cars, right? Luxury cars. I've heard about that.
This might be the scariest thing that ever happened to America. We all know that America had a lot of scary things happen to it. But this has to be the scariest thing ever. On August 29th, 1968, every single TV in America shut down. But a demonic whispering was coming from every TV in America. Many people believed that it was the devil trying to get across some message, but nobody really understood it. This lasted for about 25 seconds, then all the TVs came back on. To this day, nobody knows what caused it or why it happened, but everybody believes it was the works of the devil.
Glad I wasn't around during that
December
time.
29, 1986, a California Highway Patrol officer named Craig Pyre drove his cruiser down Interstate 15 in San Diego, California. With him was an NBC News reporter filming a segment about highway travel safety that was set to air later that night. At around 4 a.m. the previous morning, a 20-year-old college student named Kara Knott had been found strangled to death in a creek right near the Mercy Road exit. And so as Officer Pyre passed by the Mercy Road exit and continued down Interstate 15, as they filmed, he began talking about the basics of highway travel safety.
Anything could happen. Being a female, you could be raped, robbed if you're a male, all the way to where you could be killed.
As this particular segment was filmed, Officer Pyre was looking ahead and he noticed there was a car pulled over on the shoulder of the highway with its hazards on. So he turned to the news crew and basically said, look, here's a chance for us to actually show what to do in case your car breaks down on the highway. Officer Pyre walked over to the passenger side door of this car and asked him to explain what happened to your car. The driver said he had run out of gas and then gotten stranded on the side of the road. And then he had left his car and walked to a gas station to get a gas can. Came all the way back, he put the gas into his car, but his car still wouldn't start. This driver is doing basically exactly what he shouldn't be doing, according to the safety tips Officer Pyre had given. And so on camera, he basically says to this guy, do you understand how dangerous it is to have left your car like that and walked alone on this highway? And the driver just kind of looked at him and shrugged like, yeah, I guess so. After that, Officer Pyre and the news crew wrapped up filming. They told him what time to expect his segment to air on NBC that night. And when Officer Pyre's actual segment aired on TV, there were a few people, when they watched this clip, that noticed something very specific. And within an hour of this clip airing on TV, those few people were calling the police in droves to tell them, we know what happened to Kara Knott. It would turn out all the clues the police needed to solve the Kara Knott murder case were right there in that 1.5 minute long video. Because what happened to Kara had almost happened to over 24 other women in San Diego. The other 24 women who encountered the same person, the killer. They were terrorized and tortured and held hostage for a couple of hours, but eventually were let go. But Kara wasn't. During her encounter, at some point, the killer clubbed her over the head and then strangled her to death with a rope. Now, the killer at first had gotten away with this until they were featured on that 1.5 minute long video. And some of those women who had survived their attack, they're watching the segment and suddenly their attacker is on TV. And so put that all together and they thought, boom, that's the person who killed Kara Knott. And sure enough, the police would follow up on these tips and they would confirm that the man in the video was Kara's killer. And Kara's killer was none other than Officer Craig Pyre. Officer Pyre was found guilty of murder and sentenced to 25 years to life in prison.
I was the officer. That was a plot twist. You gave him safety tips, but he was doing those things himself.
What did Buzz Aldrin see in Antarctica? Let's rewind. So in 2016, a satellite got an image of what experts believed to be a huge pyramid in Antarctica. Now, if this was in fact a pyramid, it would be the largest pyramid ever found on Earth. Bigger than the Great Pyramid of Giza, which was about 230 meters wide. This pyramid in Antarctica would be 2,000 meters wide. Now, apparently in 2016, Buzz Aldrin and a crew got together and went to Antarctica to explore and check out this colossal pyramid. They wanted to see it for themselves. But this is where it gets crazy. While on the expedition, Buzz Aldrin suffered a heart attack. He was hospitalized for days. But when he fully recovered and left the hospital, he tweeted something strange, but then quickly deleted it. It said, "We are all in danger. It is evil itself." Now what the hell he talking about? Cause I don't want to find out. Someone close to Buzz said they had a talk with him and he said this.
Buzz did say one thing. He just said, we thought out things we shouldn't. And I went, what do you mean by that?
Come on, man. What did they find? Was it aliens, a Nephilim giant, other humans? If it is a pyramid, who built it? And what was living in it?
Got contact with aliens, bro?
Yo, what's up? These are Kids That Killed, Part 5. Today on our list, Aaron Campbell. On July 2nd, 2018, 6-year-old Alicia McPhail was nowhere to be found throughout her house. Her parents searched her room, the living room, and every other part of the house, but she could not be found. But the crazy thing was her bicycle was still parked out on the curb, so she couldn't have gone far. I mean, she was only 6 years old and didn't have a habit of running away, so her parents began to worry. But it turns out that this 16-year-old psychopath Aaron Campbell had actually contacted Alicia's dad the night before trying to buy some drugs. And when he went to pick him up and Alicia's dad wouldn't answer, he snuck inside the home, grabbed Alicia while she was sleeping, and kidnapped her. Alicia then woke up while she was being carried around by her kidnapper, and he told her that she had nothing to worry about and that he was a friend of her father's and he was going to get her home safely. But that was far from the truth. It'd be shortly after the young girl woke up that the 16-year-old would move on to brutally beat this young 3-foot-tall 6-year-old girl. It wouldn't be until the morning after this incident where the parents and neighbors would have a search party going out to look for the young girl, and they would find her dumped in a woodland area about 15 minutes away from their home with over 117 different injuries on her body. It was said that they found trace evidence of semen on this girl's body, and it was even claimed by forensics that she was beaten long after she had already died. It was later found out by the police during an investigation that Aaron Campbell was the one who committed these horrific acts on this young girl, and at the age of 20, when he was in prison already, he actually got beat and his front tooth went through the top of his lip. Sorry, Aaron, but you got what was coming to you.
This family was last seen in 2022, but have never been seen since. Hello, true crimeers. This is the case of the Bernstein family. Viewer discretion is advised. Pictured here in the middle is 33-year-old mother Abigail Bernstein. Pictured here with her two sons, 11-year-old Kowakai Bernstein and 8-year-old Kush Bernstein. So this case originates on the island of Oahu, specifically in Honolulu. Abigail had allegedly met a man online and they planned to take a year-long trip, a boat trip. In October of 2022, Abigail and her two children were last seen here at the Alawai Boat Harbor in Honolulu, Hawaii. The identity of the man that she met and was going on this trip with, I don't think has been made public. I can't, even the FBI, website doesn't have any information on him. But what the FBI has stated is that the boat returned in 2023. I'm assuming that means with the man, but again, I'm not 100% sure. What is sure, however, is that Abigail and her two sons were not on that boat. This entire family has not been seen since they left that boat dock in 2022. Once they were reported missing, the FBI becomes involved, and the FBI would find out that Abigail and her two kids were living a very nomadic lifestyle. They completely cut off, or Abigail did, cut off all communications with her family. So it was literally just her and the two kids. Her two sons were not enrolled in school at the time of their disappearance. Neither of the two kids, or Abigail especially, had a cell phone. They cut off their cell phone before they left. And again, I have to assume that this man they went with was questioned and talked to. I don't know what, if they did, I don't know what he said. It's very strange because the FBI is saying that they don't have any evidence of foul play. However, they cannot rule foul play out. They just don't have proof of it. And most importantly, they don't have this entire family. Where did they go? Some believe that they, could have just started a new life somewhere on another island. Abigail had connections not only to Oahu, but also on the Big Island. She also had connections to people in Naples, Florida, Petoskey, Michigan, and Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I can only assume that they have investigated those angles as well. The hope is that they are just living off the grid somewhere. And if it was just Abigail, they would probably not be pushing this as hard because, she's a 33-plus-year-old adult. But there are two children involved here, and there is concern for their well-being, not necessarily because of Abigail, just because nobody knows where they are or what they're doing, but somebody out there has to have seen them. And as badly as Abigail may not want to be found, people just need to know where these kids are at. Someone somewhere out there knows the truth, and perhaps that someone is you. If you have any information on the whereabouts of Abigail Bernstein or her two sons, please contact the Honolulu, Hawaii FBI office at 808-673-2719.
She sound like she just banned and she trying to live off the
She
grid.
ate a poisonous cake that was left at her doorstep. 17-year-old Ana Neves was from Brazil, and she was described as a quiet girl who had a few close friends. Secretly, one of Anna's best friends was actually jealous of her, and she was planning something sinister. On May 30th of 2025, a guy delivered a package with a cake inside to Anna's home. Anna wasn't home at the time, so her sister took in the package. Anna arrived home later that evening around 6 p.m. and her sister was so excited to show her this cake because it had a note that said, "A treat for the most beautiful girl I've ever seen." Anna was flattered because she believed this was from a secret admirer, and as she was eating this cake, she had no idea that that was a big mistake. Less than an hour after eating that cake, she started to vomit violently and have severe diarrhea. The following day, her symptoms got worse and her father rushed her to the hospital. Medical staff told her that she had food poisoning, so she was given medicine and hooked up to an IV drip, and slowly she started to get better. Soon she was discharged and sent home because it seemed like she was back to normal. But later that day, once she was home, she fell on her bathroom floor and suffered a cardiac arrest. Once emergency services arrived to her home, she had passed away. Anna's family was trying to figure out how this could have even happened to her, and that's when Anna's sister remembered that there was a strange guy who had dropped off this delivery. Her family contacted the police, and they were able to determine that this cake was bought at a local pastry shop named Menina Trufa. The owner of the shop spoke with police, and she stated that an order was made for this cake and that an unknown delivery guy from an app had picked it up and delivered it. Police tracked down the guy who delivered this cake, and he was able to get the address of the person who ordered this cake, and it ended up being Anna's best friend. That friend was brought in for questioning, and at first she denied everything and stated that she had nothing to do with her friend's death, but after hours of questioning with the police, she admitted to everything and stated that she had laced the cake with arsenic that she had bought online for $11.50. She stated that she only meant to scare Anna and didn't mean to harm her at all. She ended up stating that she did this to someone else by sending them a poisonous cake as well because two of her boyfriends left her for this girl. His other victim became extremely ill, but fortunately she survived. This friend was sent to a young offenders institution, and her identity is currently being hidden, and there is no updates on any kind of sentencing.
Sometimes, man, your friends aren't your friends. Sad fact. She was jealous of her friend, so she sent her that cake. Jealous, she'll drive you to do some.
This is a
dark
true
things.
horrifying story of Hamdan School in Uganda. This school is an Islamic boarding school for girls. It was donated by one of the royal family members of Dubai 22 years ago. This story was submitted by Afra. An Arabic girl back in 2009 was a student at this high school. She knew that the school was haunted and that there was a graveyard right behind the school. And she heard rumors of many incidents where girls were possessed by jinns. But everything else about the school seems fine, because it's one of the most successful Islamic boarding schools in that region. But that does not deny the fact that jinns may live inside the school. Afra experienced something, and being in her 30s today, this one incident will always haunt her. Afra had a mutual friend that was a student in that same school. She was regularly possessed by one jinn. Out of all the religious students, she was one of the very few that didn't really care about the Islamic education. She always used to party, drink, hangs out with guys, and the jinn that used to possess her was surprisingly a Muslim. He was just furious that she used to disobey her family and her religion. They brought her to one of the halls in the school and they started a ruqya session. Afra was there witnessing the whole thing. After many attempts of trying to make this jinn speak, he finally responded. I am possessing this girl because she disobeys. I will not leave until she changes. They were all shocked and they proceed with the recitation. The moment they stop, just for a few seconds, the possessed girl stares at Afra. Who is this girl? Why is she very quiet? She is very pretty, very nice, but I cannot go near her. Afra froze in her place. She felt numb all around, and she was not able to move a single muscle. The Imam was intrigued, so he asks the jinn, why can't you go near her? What is stopping you? It was a back and forth questioning. The jinn kept saying, I can't. Why can't you? Until it responded. There is someone in front of her with light. What does that mean? They ask. There is someone in front of her with light. I can't go near her. They couldn't interpret what this was exactly. It could have been the veil of light from the Adhkar. But regardless, Afra will never forget the demon's eyes staring deep into her soul, wanting to possess her.
Was a woman. In 2023, this 26-year-old Indonesian man named AK met Adinda Kansa on Instagram, where they hit it off and eventually met in person and started their relationship. Throughout their relationship, Adinda wore a hijab that covered her head, her face, except for her eyes because of her religion. A year later, they got married and had a very small ceremony with only AK's family attending, and Adinda's family was not there because she said that her entire family had passed away. After they tied the knot, AK became extremely suspicious of his new wife because she constantly avoided any intimacy and was always making excuses. But also, AK said that Adinda was wearing her hijab at home at all times, so at this point he knew that she was hiding something. He then began searching for any information he could find on his wife, and that's when he found her old address, and when he went to go visit that home, he found her parents, which she said were dead. The parents told AK that Adinda is actually a man, and they had no idea that they got married. Adinda was arrested, and after an investigation was done, it was determined that he intended to marry AK so that he can steal his family's assets. Adinda was charged with fraud, and if convicted, he faces up to 4 years in prison. Whatever you
guys think that should be the fate for all catfishes out there, man? Because that's basically what it was. We're gonna call a spade for a spade. That was a catfish. Like, how the hell, but how did he let it go that far, man? He got married to him and he didn't even know? That's mind blowing, man. You're going out with somebody, man, you gotta do your research nowadays. That's crazy.
You never go searching for this video. These 5 friends were forced to kill each other by the Mexican cartel. These 5 young, aged from 19 to 22, were looking for some sort of employment, and they were promised a high-paying job at a call center. But when the alleged contact was taking them to meet the people for the job, it actually turned out to be a whole scheme to recruit them to the Mexican cartel. And when all 5 of these boys said they didn't want to join, the cartel then said okay and tied them up, taped their mouth and took a picture, and then recorded one of the friends killing all the other 4 friends. And after that, they put the 5th one, who just killed all of his friends, into a car and set it on fire. I am telling you right now, do not go searching for this video because you will find it. And trust me, you do not want to see something like this. This case is absolutely horrific, and the fact that this happens way more often than we think is just extremely scary and disturbing. It's just sad that these young men were just trying to get a job and make some money for themselves. But instead, it turned into a living nightmare. Rest in peace, these 5 young men.
Here's one more reason to be terrified of the ocean. Of course, it's scary when the sea is stormy, but according to Japanese legend, you should be more afraid of calm waters. Because that is when the umibozu is said to rise from the deep. This ghostly, pitch-black figure will not only scare you into a state of shock, but it will then throw you overboard and drown you in the sea.
It is criminal that no one knows what this guy is doing right now. A man is attempting to become the first person ever to walk the entire length of the United States barefoot. He started his over 5,000 kilometer walk in February, and as you'd imagine, his feet have already taken an absolute battering. He's already had to walk through snow, which he says was so cold that it makes every pebble feel like you're walking over a Lego brick. But if the cold wasn't bad enough, he will soon have to walk through the Midwestern summer heat, which will easily reach temperatures of over 100 degrees. And because of that, similar to Russ Cook running through the Sahara, he says that he's going to have to walk overnight because during the day, the paving will just be too hot. He's almost been hit multiple times by massive semi-trucks not paying attention and pushing him off the road. The nerve endings on his feet are so bruised from stepping on rocks that it keeps him up at night. He's had really bad infections that haven't had enough time to heal, because if he does take days off and doesn't make it to New York before the winter, he is screwed. And the part which just blows my mind, he's doing all of this to raise awareness for men's mental health. Despite this amazing cause and what he's putting himself through, he has only 139 followers on TikTok and only 412 on YouTube. I mean, that should be illegal. He's got about 6 months of walking left to do. So please, let's show this man some support and push him through.
That's crazy, man. He's doing that for a good cause, and hopefully, man, just catches some fire, catches some heat, so more people are aware of that. Barefoot, too? That's a different type of breed right there, man.
Have you heard the creepy story behind this photo?
What?
She's been named the Expressionless. Well, the story takes place in June of 1972. Hospital employees were very shocked and scared when this woman entered the hospital wearing a blood-soaked gown. What was terrifying is that she had no emotion on her face. When the doctors went to sedate her to see what was wrong, she started to fight back. This is her in that very moment. Now, this is a creepypasta, but some believe that this photo is actually true and that this is a real creepy-ass woman. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Photos from his...
This is a real sign in a city called Davao in the Philippines, and there's a lot of history behind it. Now, as you can see in the sign, it says, "Waving children, please wave back," with a pair of children with their arms up. This sign serves as a warning to everyone passing by that there are ghosts of children in the area. It's believed there's a ton of supernatural activity all around the area, and if you don't wave back, these children will come and haunt you. Upon researching the story, I haven't found anyone reporting that they haven't waved back to any of the children. I've only heard accounts of people waving back and then being okay afterwards. So with that information in my head, I can only assume the worst happens if you don't wave back. So obviously, if you're traveling in the Philippines and you see a child wave to you, wave back for your own safety. The last thing you want is a ghost child following you and haunting you for the rest of your life. Let me know what you guys think about this. I also covered a video on the Aswang, which is another Filipino urban legend. Very scary stuff. Definitely go check that out. And if you have any suggestions, let me know.
You guys waving back, man? I wouldn't want no ghosts, no spirits, bad energy, juju following me, so I'll have to wave back. I don't need that following me around.
This is a true horrifying story, part 32. In parts 25, 26, and 27, I warned you all about the most dangerous book that was ever written, Shams al-Ma'arif. This book is a portal to the world of jinns and demons. There's a person that read this book, and this person faces traumatic incidents every single day. She's a woman from Jordan. She graduated university being the top graded student. She is a genius. She has read hundreds of novels. She had a strong passion for books. She heard about this book called Shams al-Ma'arif. She couldn't live knowing that there's a book that has a strong story behind it without reading it. After many months of trying to find the real copy of this book, she heard about an old man that lives in Jordan that had an ancient copy of Shams al-Ma'arif. She got in touch with him, and he refused to sell the book, but she didn't quit. It took her many weeks to finally buy the book off of him. She goes back home and immediately starts reading the book. After she read the first few chapters of the book, she felt kind of hungry, so she decided to go to the kitchen and prepare some food and then continue reading. As she goes into the kitchen, she opens the oven and a gale of fire burns her face. She spent 3 weeks in the burn unit rehabilitation. The oven was switched off. No one knows till this day where the flames came from. She had multiple plastic surgeries to recover her facial features, but till this day, her face is not what it used to be. After recovery, she goes home weeks later and she looks for the book, knowing that the jinn was the reason she was harmed. She tried to find the book for many days, but it was lost. Years go by. She was home watching TV one day. She came across an Islamic channel that had a live interview program. An old man was being interviewed on this channel. He was asked by the imams about the dangers of a black magic book that he owns. His body was very unusual and his face was burned off. He got a book from under the table and he said this: "I once sold this book to a young woman a long time ago, and the demons warned me not to stop my rituals, and if I gave the book away, they would burn my face and they would burn hers. And after I gave the book, I woke up the next day without my normal face. And the book I sold to that woman was right there laying next to me on bed. I knew that it was the jinns that brought the book back to me. And this is when I strengthened my iman and I quit black magic." Quote, this was all said on TV, and the poor girl was just standing there, watching the same man speak. The man on TV was the man that gave her the book. The book he showed on TV was the book he handed to her. That was the book that was lost. The book that she was looking for.
Damn, it sounded like she got tempted by that knowledge. She just couldn't turn it down. Look what happened. Like some bad spirits was following her. Like the book, the part I'm trying to figure out is how the book, like it just went back to the man's house. Did he take it back, or was it just there the next day? That's something to think about.
This is Tragedy by the Sea, one of the most disturbing and sad photos of all time. Okay, so first glance at this photo, you just think it's a couple arguing at the beach, right? But believe it or not, this photo might have the most unsettling and disturbing backstory ever. On the morning of April 2nd, 1954, a Los Angeles Times photographer named John Gaunt, who was pictured in the middle of this photo, was relaxing on his front yard of his beachfront house when he heard a neighbor shout, "Something's happening on the beach." He then instinctively grabbed his camera and rushed over to see the horrified couple clutching each other on the beach. On the shore stood a young couple named Mr. and Mrs. McDonald, and their body language made John's stomach turn. He realized that someone must be lost, and he then took a photograph from 200 yards away. Only then did he learn that just moments before, the couple's 19-month-old son Michael, who had been playing in the yard, had wandered down to the beach and crawled into the violent waters while they weren't looking. Despite the back and forth efforts by the parents, there was nothing they can do but just wait. Unfortunately, later that day, the child's dead body was washed up about a mile away on the beach. And this photo, titled "Tragedy by the Sea," appeared on the front page of the Times the very next day. John Gaunt then won the 1955 Pulitzer Prize Award, calling the photo poignant and profoundly moving. But he also received heavy criticism for capitalizing on the family's tragedy for his photo opportunity. But now, take a look at this photo, knowing everything you do, and tell me it's not one of the saddest and most disturbing photos ever. Let's talk
It
about
really
this
is.
picture. Captured in 2008 by Daniel Young, this is one of the only pieces of evidence that this encounter actually happened. So Daniel was a custodian at Myrtle Elementary School where he worked the night shift. It's a pretty routine night. He's just listening to music when he's suddenly interrupted by the sound of a woman's laughter. He turned around and was terrified when he saw an unknown woman smiling from behind the corner. This was a locked school on after hours, so clearly she was an adult who broke in, so he tried to snap a picture to identify her and then chases after her. But when he turned the corner, she had already darted out of an emergency exit. Later that night, police are called to a home where they arrive at a tragedy. An unknown woman had broken into a nearby home where she knifed two parents, one who was the principal of this school, so brutally they were unrecognizable. One of the daughters who witnessed this woman before she got away described her as this person. Could this photo be of the same unknown woman? And what her connection is to the school and the principal, we don't know.
Most disturbing videos in the world. Episode 6. This picture contains a list of disturbing videos from the least scary to the most. This will be my scariest series ever. Welcome to Tier 7 because we skipped a couple of them. And honestly today we're gonna skip directly to Tier 10. The first video is titled Funky Town. This video single-handedly could be the worst video the internet has ever had. Now obviously I can't show the video here, but I can tell you everything you need to know about it. And please remember, don't look this up. Trust me. It shows a man, getting executed, in which they remove the man's face all while he's still alive. And lots of other stuff start happening. And in the background of the video, the song Funky Town starts playing. You know this song? Yeah, that one. Make sure to like and follow because I start my brand new series tomorrow.
Those videos, man, where they always have to like break it down and explain. It's always chilling, man, and I take them at their word. I never looked it up because I don't need that in my mind. But the way they break it down with the details, especially about Sebastian on Tank 22, we know, man. Crazy how people can even do that to another human being. Edit, man. You guys, I want to see y'all guys call out the edits, man, down below as well. If y'all guys can spot them out, because I might miss some too. Y'all can correct me, man. We all a community, yo.
This is the disturbing moment. This woman laughed in court after she took this 3-year-old's life in a random attack. On June 3rd, police received numerous phone calls about a stabbing at a grocery store parking lot in Ohio. At around 3 p.m. on this day, 38-year-old Margot Wood was loading groceries into her car while her 3-year-old son, Julian, sat in his car seat. That's when 32-year-old Bianca Ellis entered the car and began stabbing the little boy. When Margot noticed, she tried to stop the attacker, and as a result, she was also wounded. Julian was then rushed to the hospital where he unfortunately passed away. Now, what's disturbing was that this was a random attack, and after looking at surveillance footage, the attacker was seen following the mother and the child in and out of the grocery store. Then, when Bianca was brought into court, the judge began reading out the indictment, and she was seen smiling and laughing the entire time. And after an assessment was done on Bianca, they're arguing that she has bipolar disorder and had a psychotic break, which explains why she did what she did. And this story only gets crazier. Before this incident, Bianca confessed to another murder in Bakersfield, and she even gave details of what she did with this person's body. She also warned officers that if she wasn't arrested, she was going to murder someone and eat their flesh. But none of this was taken too serious, and she was released from the mental institution, and not long after, she committed this heinous crime.
So, let's talk about the most disturbing animated film ever made that has been banned all over the world. 1992's Midori. Our main character is 12-year-old Midori. After her mother becomes extremely ill, she is tricked into joining a traveling circus. And these are some of the fine people that she is surrounded by every day. The film contains a lot of very explicit scenes of violence and other things towards young Midori. The film is also known for its animal content. When it was originally released, Midori was banned all over the world, including in its own home country of Japan. And I can definitely see why. I'm not kidding when I say this is probably the most graphic, strange, animated film that has probably ever been made. And this is most certainly not a film for a lot of people. It's a film I really don't feel like I can recommend, but there are lots of very interesting discussions around the morality of this film. And if you've seen this film, I'd love to know what you guys think of it.
Hell no, I didn't even know that film existed. It really was banned. All of them. It's always people in those positions, man. Power.
Number 10 is Saddam Hussein. We all remember Saddam. Number 9, Kim Jong-il, who is the uncle and the former leader of Kim Jong-un of North Korea, and even though Kim Jong-un is bad, like, we got to step up from Kim Jong-il. I remember reading that he once fed his family to dogs. Number 8 is Genghis Khan. The guy, you know, the Mongolia Chinese wall, the Great Wall of China, forced everybody to do that.
Ooh.
Number 7, Heinrich Himmler, one of the right-hand men in the Nazi Party, was just all around evil. Number 6, Pol Pot, terrible man, maybe was one of the most ruthless killers in history. Number 5, Mao Zedong, the terrible emperor of China. Number 4, Osama bin Laden, the fool who committed 9/11 and went in hiding, and then we all forgot about him until Obama was like, we're actually going to go get him now, and I was like, thank God. Number 3, Vlad the Impaler. Vlad the Impaler is the basis for the character of Dracula. His middle name was Dragula, and he was known for impaling his victims on sticks and posing them in front of the castle. Number 2, Joseph Stalin, who was the leader of Russia during World War II, and he was basically one of the most ruthless killers as well. He had concentration camps for the Russians that didn't support him, and millions of people died under him. If you like this list and want more lists about other nonsense, follow me. Leave me a comment with the most evil person in history in your book. Also follow my Instagram and fiance Samantha, who I've tagged. Number 1, I can't even say his name on TikTok, but we all know who it is. Evil Austrian mustache man.
Think twice before you answer the door on Halloween night. On Halloween night in 1984, a pregnant mom named Doreen Herbert heard the doorbell ring. She opened the door to find someone in a wolf mask holding a machete. This was like a scene straight out of a horror movie, and she was viciously slaughtered in front of her 4-year-old daughter. Special attention had been made to harm the fetus as well, and it was found under this chair. Luckily, when the attack started, her daughter hid behind the couch, and then the man in the wolf mask paced around the house looking for her. The man in the mask shouted that if she said anything, he was going to come back and kill her too. Crime scene investigators noticed a trail of blood leading from the house down the sidewalk and across the freeway to a nearby neighborhood. This attack happened shortly after her husband left to go to the store, and he came home just a few minutes after she died. But luckily, officers did their due diligence. Looking into Doreen's past, they found out she had a tumultuous marriage with her ex-husband, Michael Dennis. And they actually had a child that drowned under Doreen's supervision in 1980. 2 years later, this distraught ex sued Doreen for the death of their child, but lost in court. And just hours after the murder, the police paid a visit to Michael Dennis. He was calm and collected and gave consent to search, but as he reached out to sign the form, they noticed a gash on his hand. He said he got this injury from carving pumpkins the day before, but they noticed that the blood was still clotting. He began to walk detectives up towards his bedroom and lunged towards the bed. And they were luckily able to tackle him before he grabbed his revolver. And also inside the house, they found blood near the washing machine, and blood was all over his car door handle and steering wheel.
Caught him.
His past girlfriend also said that the previous Halloween, he went to a party wearing a wolf mask, pictured here. Michael Dennis was charged for the death of Doreen and her unborn child. And due to the brutality, he was actually given the death penalty. Michael Dennis had never moved on and hated Doreen for finding love and having another. And I have to say, if you've lost a child, Halloween is probably a really difficult day to look outside and see kids running around everywhere. But that does not excuse his actions. Let me know what case you want me to cover next and follow for more true crime.
It is wild. This is actually happening. Celebrities are now losing thousands of followers in an unprecedented TikTok trend where people are deliberately blocking the rich and famous so that they lose their sponsorships, their brand deals, and ultimately money. And you know what? It's working. So here's how the blockout trend started, and more interestingly, why. This is Hailey Bailey. She's a model and a content creator, and she doesn't know it yet, but she's about to trigger a massive digital revolution against the world's celebrities and herself, all with one video.
Let them eat cake. He took the bomb.
But to understand why what she did here caused so much outrage, we need to go back to the 1800s. I'm not even joking. The Queen of France in 1774 has somehow triggered a massive revolution on TikTok in 2024. Marie Antoinette was actually the last queen before the French Revolution, because at a time where the country was in extreme debt and the people were living in poverty and famine, Marie was seen living a lavish lifestyle and spending huge amounts of money on unnecessary things. For example, she was best known for her extreme looks and love for fashion. Her annual clothing budget alone was equivalent to today's $3.6 million. That's 200K a month. But ironically, what she is most remembered for is the time that she was told that the public were starving and they didn't have enough bread to eat, to which she replied, "Let them eat cake." And I say it's ironic because it's believed that she never actually even said this. Regardless, the public's anger grew and led to a revolution and ultimately her execution. So back to 2024 when Hailey Bailey dressed up as Marie Antoinette and used a trending sound saying "let them eat cake" while outside the Met Gala where tickets cost more than the average down payment for a house. She quickly became the modern Marie Antoinette and triggered the blockout revolution. Now since then she has apologized and said she didn't know the implications of that quote before she used it. And while the anger started with just her video, with one of the top comments saying "we're giving you the Marie Antoinette experience," it quickly grew to all of the celebrities that attended that event and beyond. The Hunger Games societal disparity became the movement theme, with hundreds of people commenting "watching from District 12." Creators have started making videos showing off their own daily celebrity block lists, and the people who join the trend say that the movement is simple. Just like how the French people's taxes were funding Antoinette's lavish lifestyle while they starved, today the public's attention is often what funds these celebrities' lifestyles. And so people say if they're using this attention money similar to Antoinette on massive unnecessary displays of wealth, all while people around the world struggle and starve, that attention and therefore money will be removed. And that's how and why the block trend started. So the question is, do you agree with this trend or are people taking it way too far?
This man saved all of his dogs from a house fire. 65-year-old Gary Majors made a choice that would forever define his legacy. When a devastating fire erupted in his home, fueled by a malfunctioning space heater, Gary had one priority: saving his beloved dogs. Witnesses reported seeing him frantically ushering his pets to safety through the back door as flames engulfed the house. But in a cruel twist of fate, as firefighters arrived, they discovered Gary's lifeless body near the doorway, just steps away from escape. He successfully saved all 8 of his dogs, but succumbed to smoke inhalation while ensuring they made it out alive. Neighbors described Gary as a quiet, kind man who loved these dogs more than anything. His pack included rescues and senior dogs, their names etched into collars he carefully fastened each morning. Firefighters found the animals huddled together outside, unharmed but visibly distressed, as if waiting for their savior to follow them. To Gary, they weren't just dogs, they were his family. Though Gary didn't survive, his act of unconditional love went viral, with animal advocates calling him a quiet hero. A local shelter later honored him by naming a kennel wing in his memory, ensuring his compassion lives on.
What happened?
Gary.
His eye just turned green.
What do you mean they turned green?
Oh, hell nah.
Don't throw it to me! What happened?
They just turned green and I was cleaning my room.
What do you mean it turned green?
It's his eye.
His eye?
Yeah.
So this little girl went running to her mother, terrified that her Labubu's eyes turned green and the smile got bigger. A lot of Labubu lovers are upset over this, saying that this girl is lying, it's just her imagination, and that it's just a toy. Personally, I never understood the hype over this thing. If anything, it creeps me out. But there have been a lot of people coming out talking about their paranormal experience after getting a Labubu doll. Like this one girl who found a Labubu doll at a Home Goods, and she thought, why is there a Labubu doll at Home Goods and no one has taken it? These are so expensive, they're hard to find. So she thought it was a sign and she bought it. So she's all excited and takes the Labubu home, and the first thing her husband says to her is that this thing better not be demonic. She doesn't think much of it. She kind of just rolls her eyes and thinks he's overreacting. The next day, she says that she got this very heavy chest pain that she's never felt before, and she didn't know what it was. The following day, she gets into a car accident. She doesn't think this is a coincidence and believes that something is up with this Labubu and is the reason why all this is happening to her. Then, of course, The Simpsons predicted this. In one episode, Homer brings in the Pazuzu doll. Labubu, Pazuzu, very similar. But he brings this into the home and all these bad things are happening. What do you guys think about this? Because I literally sat here the other day and I was looking at this doll and I was trying to like it, but I just couldn't understand. Like, what's the hype? Not only do Labubus have kids in a chokehold, but also grown-ups are paying good money for this.
Things that only... I don't know what's going on with that Labubu hype, man, but, bro, can't deny the sequence of events. If you had the chest pain, next day end up in an accident, we can't just Mike can't just say it's the Labubu dog, but I don't think that was happening in her life before she got that dog, man. I've seen that going, viral on TikTok, so what do you guys think?
0.01% of people can do. Touching your nose with your tongue. Yeah, I can't do it. Apparently some people can't just raise one eyebrow. I think I can do it. And apparently some people can't cross their eyes, and I'm pretty sure I just did it. Sneeze with your eyes open. Okay, that's impossible. Nobody can do that. Apparently rolling your tongue is super rare. So apparently I'm a rare person. Apparently some people can bend their hand upwards. How is that possible? What? We can't tell parents about cruel babysitter, but what the dog does will shock you. A married couple have a kid, and when they moved to a new city, they needed to find a babysitter. After finding a babysitter, everything went great until 5 months later, the dog freaked out when the babysitter came. The parents suspected something because the dog was freaking out, so they put an iPhone in the house and captured the audio. When listening to the audio, they heard the babysitter yell and cuss at the baby multiple times while it cried. They then heard slap noises, so they immediately called the police. The lady then pleaded guilty to assault and served 3 years in prison.
I find that liminal spaces give me like a lot of anxiety. I'm gonna show you some of the liminal spaces that really freak me out. I just have this irrational fear of like being trapped in a store after they've closed. Like it's like a Toys R Us after dark. It's awful. I hate this. This is like what I would imagine purgatory to be like. You're just so alone in here. This one's bad too. It's almost like it looks like it's built indoors. This is like something you would see in a dream. It's very off. I swear to God, I think I have seen this in a dream. Like, what is this room? Can I explain why this one is so off-putting to me? It feels very much like deja vu. Almost like, not that I've seen it in a dream, but I feel like I've been in this space in like a past life. Same with this. There's like something really off about this space. I don't like it. Oh my god. Oh my god. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I just wouldn't make it. Like, I just wouldn't be able to cope. I don't
know what was
famous celebrities' last words. Starting off with X. On June 18th, 2018, he decided to go to the ATM to withdraw some cash. He was then followed by a black SUV to a motorsports shop. After a few hours passed, he decided to go outside and he noticed the black SUV was still there. 2 men jumped out of the SUV and demanded that X gave him his car. When he tried to fight back, he was then shot in the neck 3 times. His last words were, "What the F is going on?" Now let's talk about Juice WRLD. After landing at the Midway airport, he suffered from a severe seizure, and this was caused by an overdose of painkillers. His few last words were unknown, but his last words dedicated to his fans were, "I love y'all more than life."
Legends, man. Made an impact on the world that young.
Terrifying apps you should never download, part 1. Up first we have Camster Pro. Now from an outside perspective, it actually looks quite cool and completely harmless. Now when downloaded on an iPhone, it gives you an option to connect to a network of iPhones which will connect you to security footage, MacBook cameras, iPhone cameras, so you can essentially watch other people. That's already strange, but it gets worse. What isn't told to you is when you download this app, you are unknowingly giving other people free reign to look through your device's camera, meaning other app users from around the world could be staring at you through your iPhone and you wouldn't have a clue. Now share this with a friend to make sure they never download this app because this could legitimately save their life. Elon!
Sounds illegal,
How
man.
rare is your body compared to the rest of the world? Favorite and comment on this video if you have any of these. First up, only 4% of people have Raynaud's syndrome. This is when part of your body, typically your fingers and toes, start to turn white when they're exposed to low temperatures. Only 16% of people can make a roaring sound in their head using their jaw. Now you can do this because you can control a small muscle in your jaw. Only 35% of people globally have 20/20 vision. That means 2/3 of the population cannot see perfectly. 10% of people are left-handed. As well, studies show these people typically live shorter lives. Only 5% of people globally have tongues that are tied. This is when your tongue is tied to the bottom of your mouth and typically will impact speech and eating. And probably the wildest one of all, only 11% of people in the world have brown hair. Yo, Elon!
I have the tied tongue. That's it. No other features, man.
Makeup is forbidden by God, and I'm not telling you not to wear makeup, but I want you to know the history of it. The word glamour actually means to cast a spell on someone. That's why when you do your makeup, you use a brush, which is actually called a wand, and when you rub it on your face, you turn into something different. Look at this picture. This guy did not used to look like this before he started wearing glamour or makeup. Look at the definition. The original definition of glamour is actually magic. That's why you see for definition number 2, it says enchantment or magic. It's the archaic version or the original version of what glamour means. And in the book of Enoch, angels actually came down to earth to teach women how to use makeup. And this is what it says. In the book of Enoch, it says the fallen angel, Azazel, taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, made known to them from the metals of the earth, and the art of working them, and bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids. If you read the book of Ezekiel, where it talks about Jezebel, it also mentions the beautifying of eyelids. That is because it makes you look better than you actually do. It's transformation. It's a ritual, basically. It was taught by angels.
I never even looked at it like that. I know, some people don't like makeup, or maybe that's why, some people be like, they don't like, when their daughters wear makeup at a young age. What do you guys think about that, Seekers? That theory? Where he at?
This apparent true story of a scientist who traveled to the year 4040 will definitely freak you the fuck out. And when I saw this, I thought, as long as it's better than 2020, it'll be okay. But boy, was I wrong! How do I put this bluntly? Apocalypse, aliens, still sexy. And the real life Terminator. Here's basically a timeline of how we, humans, managed to do what we do best. Fuck everything up! So let's take the story back to 2458, where we connect with alien life. They were a highly advanced species which brought great knowledge and medicine to our world. So much so allowing us to live up to 200 years! So all you're telling me is, I can still do the renegade when I'm 180. Nice. Honestly, the whole alien part of this story isn't bad, but in 3230, we create AI which outsmart humans, which tried to take over the planet. Oh yeah, and they succeeded. The war raged on for centuries, and by 4040, the real-life fucking Terminator had laid waste to Earth. But that's nothing compared to the guy who claims he's from 6491. 2020 ain't looking so bad right now. Elon!
You got the
If you ever see this, you need to run. Fast. This video is crazy. Make sure to follow and like so everybody can see this. If you ever see this outside, you need to get out of there fast, because that is actually quicksand. And if you were to walk into quicksand, you would get stuck. And the most dangerous part is if water gets added, because if water and quicksand mix, you could actually drown. Make sure to share this with a friend so you can keep them safe.
Dirty animal facts that biology class definitely did not teach you. Part 4. The sloth is quite literally too lazy to go looking for a mate, so a female sloth will simply sit in a tree and scream her head off until a male hears it and decides to mate with her. Whenever they feel threatened, turkey vultures will quite literally vomit on their predators to defend themselves. If you and I get too hot, we simply sweat to cool down, but if a vulture gets too hot, it will urinate on its own body to cool off. This also helps kill any diseases they picked up walking through the carcasses of dead animals. Could y'all imagine being so damn dirty that piss cleans you off? When caterpillars enter the chrysalis phase, they don't just sprout wings and turn into a butterfly. Their entire body turns into a soupy liquid that then transforms into a butterfly. And what's crazy is that even after all of this, they still have their memories. Honestly, have no idea how that's possible. Like, did they store that shit in the cloud? Like,
If you can't decide on where to go on holiday this summer, look no further. Because North Korea has just opened a massive beach resort. Oh, we are gonna party with Kimmy. Yesterday, he traveled to the city of Wonsan to officially open what he describes as the country's greatest success this year. And this is about to get propagandary, so lock in. The resort spans a impressive 2.5 miles of prime North Korean coastline and is designed to accommodate up to 20,000 people at a time, who will presumably stay in the newly built 54 hotels, dozens of hostels, and even VIP lodges fit for a supreme leader. It also has a massive water park with slides, surfing, swimming, sunbathing, and even waterboarding for those who misbehave. I don't even want to know how many years bro's getting for that fumble. It also apparently has several shopping centers, bars, arcades, golf courses, cinema where they'll run classics like Kim Kong and Mission Kim Possible, and also dozens of restaurants where they'll serve food when they have it. Kim was seen yesterday touring the facility with his daughter and his wife, who we actually don't see very often. And then in the evening, they they had a huge celebration with a concert, excited fans, and even set off a bunch of what's known in the country as recreational missiles. Now, the good news is that this luxury resort will be open on Tuesday. Bad news is that, as of right now, it's only for North Koreans. But apparently, tourism is the country's next big thing, so can't arrest us all.
Here are some things. Man, imagine going to Africa. A North Korea beach, man. You better be on your best behavior, bro. Anything, like you said, it's a wrap, man. In North Korea, they do not mess around.
That I learned today. This is the apple tree where Isaac Newton discovered gravity. It's literally still growing in England today and is now over 350 years old. 90% of the 300,000 Ferraris that have been produced since they started in 1947 are still working and on the road today. They accidentally put an auto reply email as the Welsh translation on a road sign. It was apparently supposed to say no entry for heavy goods vehicles. Instead, it said, I am not in the office at the moment. A French journalist blinked out a 130-page bestseller using only one eyelid after suffering a stroke at 43 and becoming paralyzed. The craziest part is he apparently passed away 2 days after it was published. The longest someone has ever stayed on the FBI's most wanted list was 32 years, and the shortest was 2 hours. 75% of the world's food comes from just 12 plants and 5 animal species.
Whenever you walk through a doorway, your brain basically takes that as a cue to completely refresh your memory, which is why you forget shit when you walk into a new room. If you announce your goals to others, you suddenly become way less likely to actually complete them. For some reason, we just lose motivation. If you ever stand saying like, hey, you could get really hurt, just be a little extra careful. Same thing like if you're holding a baby and you're like, I could just drop this thing right now. Doesn't mean you're a monster. Your brain's just like, hey, this baby's delicate. Don't drop him. It's completely normal.
Okay, so this has to be one of the craziest documentaries I've ever seen. In 1984, filmmaker John Alpert started following around 3 drug-addicted criminals in Newark, New Jersey. He went on to film updates on how their lives were going for 36 years and finally released a fully finished documentary in 2021. Life of Crime takes us into the lives of Rob, Freddie, and Delirious as they do drugs, steal, and seem to live a life of endless chaos. Over the years, we watch insanely intimate hidden camera footage of them committing criminal acts, coming in and out of jail, and trying to live a normal life despite temptation at every corner. The fact that it's filmed over almost 4 decades is pretty mind-blowing, and there are a lot of twists and turns as their lives progress. Overall, I'd say you definitely have to check this one out, especially if you like raw footage crime documentaries.
He made tacos out of her brain.
Wow.
Alvaro and Maria had been married for about a year and were living in Mexico. Although they didn't have children together, Maria was a mother to 5 children from a previous marriage. Alvaro wasn't the best husband as he had an addiction to substances and he was very violent towards Maria's children and would even spy on them when they were taking a shower. On June 29th of 2023, Alvaro was under the influence when he took Maria's life. He dismembered her body and placed it in a plastic bag. Some of Maria's body parts were left at the home while others were left at a ravine. Alvaro ate part of Maria's brain in tacos and used her shattered skull as an ashtray. 2 days after he did this, he told Maria's daughter what he had did to her mom and to come collect her body parts. Maria's body was chopped up by using a machete, hammer, and a chisel. Once law enforcement was notified, they found a black magic altar during the investigation. Alvaro confessed everything and claimed that the devil made him do it. On July 2nd, Alvaro was arrested and he is currently awaiting trial.
Facts that will mess with your perception of time. Sharks are older than the rings of Saturn by hundreds of millions of years. If you were given $10,000 every single day since the pyramids were built, you would only have about 6% of Elon Musk's entire wealth. To give a clear picture of the difference between a million and a million seconds ago was a little over a week ago. A billion seconds ago was the year 1990. Jimmy Carter was the first president to be born in a hospital. Obama was the first president born under the same American flag he served as president under. Harriet Tubman was born in Thomas Jefferson's lifetime and died in Reagan's. There were Greek playwrights who wrote shows nearly 2,000 years before Shakespeare was even alive. Follow for more.
Is that where you got inspired from? A little unknown fact of history, okay.
This is a true horrifying story of Hamdan School in Uganda. This school is an Islamic boarding school for girls. It was donated by one of the royal family members of Dubai 22 years ago. This story was submitted by Afra. An Arabic girl back in 2009 was a student at this high school. She knew that the school was haunted and that there was a graveyard right behind the school. And she heard rumors of many incidents where girls were possessed by jinns. But everything else about the school seems fine, because it's one of the most successful Islamic boarding schools in that region. But that does not deny the fact that jinns may live inside the school. Afra experienced something, and being in her 30s today, this one incident will always haunt her. Afra had a mutual friend that was a student in that same school. She was regularly possessed by one jinn. Out of all the religious students, she was one of the very few that didn't really care about the Islamic education. She always used to party, drink, hangs out with guys, and the jinn that used to possess her was surprisingly a Muslim. He was just furious that she used to disobey her family and her religion. They brought her to one of the halls in the school and they started a ruqya session. Afra was there witnessing the whole thing. After many attempts of trying to make this jinn speak, he finally responded. I am possessing this girl because she disobeys. I will not leave until she changes. They were all shocked and they proceed with the recitation. The moment they stop, just for a few seconds, the possessed girl stares at Afra. Who is this girl? Why is she very quiet? She is very pretty, very nice, but I cannot go near her. Afra froze in her place. She felt numb all around, and she was not able to move a single muscle. The Imam was intrigued, so he asks the jinn, why can't you go near her? What is stopping you? It was a back and forth questioning. The jinn kept saying, I can't. Why can't you? Until it responded. There is someone in front of her with light. What does that mean? They ask. There is someone in front of her with light. I can't go near her. They couldn't interpret what this was exactly. It could have been the veil of light from the Adhkar. But regardless, Afra will never forget the demon's eyes staring deep into her soul, wanting to possess her.
That school sounds haunted. Hit the nail on the head.
They've been hiding this from us. The Great Wall of China. It's over 13,000 miles long. That's not a typo. 13,000 miles. To put it in perspective, America, coast to coast, is about 3,000 miles. You could stretch the US 4 times, add another 1,000 miles, and you're still not there. So ask yourself, how did ancient people over 2,000 years ago build something that long without modern machines? They started building it in 220 BC. That's before Jesus even walked the earth. And here's the wild part. It took over 1,000 years to complete. No kingdom, no emperor spends that kind of time and resources unless they're terrified of something. So what were they scared of? Now here's where things get weird. Look closely at the wall. The steep side with the lookout posts. It actually faces China, not the outside. That's right. The defensive side is aimed inward, which makes no sense. Unless the wall wasn't built to keep enemies out, but to keep something inside. Some believe it wasn't built by the Chinese at all, but by the Tartarian Empire. If that's true, what were they trying to contain in ancient China? And why does no one ever talk about this? Follow to learn more about the secrets they don't want you to know.
Yeah, I think the Great Wall is meant to keep something inside China. Like you said, I didn't even know that, man, that the tower's pointing inward, not outward. So that means that, like I said, it was keeping something in. Any theories? I say a dragon or something. I don't know.
Rose is completely crashing out, spiraling. And this is why. Gypsy Rose critics have rented a mobile billboard. It will be driving around the French Quarter until 1 a.m. They are also handing out flyers with a QR code where information about the case can be found, including the truth, the facts, the evidence. And Gypsy Rose, she's livid. Apparently, she is having a total crash out that this is even happening. But GRB, What do you expect? People are finally seeing the true narrative here. This group of women have taken up donations to fund this project. I am not sure exactly who is heading this up or who is involved. Please tag them below if you know them. I just think this was such a great idea. Finally, a little piece of justice can be served.
She crashing out over that? I ain't see it. We're gonna have to check that out. People say they got the information to the real case, the real info. I know people were mad, man, but they rented a mobile billboard. I underestimated how mad people were.
This is Robert Hansen, also known as the Butcher Baker, and he would abduct his victims, fly them out to Alaska where he lived, and release them into the wild and hunt them until they were dead. He thought this was some sick game and he loved playing it. He would also assault his victims and torture them in various ways. He usually targeted women that were sex workers, so like prostitutes and stuff like that. There had been many reports on these sex workers and then dancers disappearing in the 70s, and then in the 1980s they found bodies. They found 2 bodies next to each other with similar shell casings in there, indicating that they were killed with a hunting rifle. Robert Hansen himself was not an unsuccessful person, too. He was kind of an unsuspecting guy. He was married, 2 kids, and he was the town's baker. Hence the name Butcher Baker. When he was caught, the police were shocked. They would go down to him for like donuts and coffee all the time at his shop. This is gonna make you guys mad. In 1983, this woman was found handcuffed and half-clothed in the Alaskan wilderness and very disheveled. She told the police about what happened. She got abducted, tortured. This guy flew her out on his plane. He had a pilot license and everything, so he'd fly out the people there, and then tortured her and hunted her in the wild. They thought that was so far-fetched from the truth that they didn't even believe her. This happened another time with the same story, and they'd been suspecting that, Robert Hansen may be the guy at this point. It was like 10 years later. Because in 1971, that was the first time he was accused of assault. However, it was kind of a cold case. I guess police didn't take it seriously. And then in 1983, they're just like, okay, too many people are disappearing. Let's believe this woman and let's go check it out. All of the descriptions she made, even from the interior of the home to the plane, were all accurate. They found jewelry of the women that went missing. They also found a map with a bunch of X's of the Alaskan wilderness. All of the X's represented where he found his prey and how he killed them. The rifle matched the bullet casings of the first 2 women found next to each other. They went out there to every single spot where that X was marked with the search dogs, and they found bodies just everywhere. When Robert Hansen realized he was caught and the police were searching his home, his face was red, all his hairs were standing up. It was just very obvious at this point that they had got him. He would end up confessing to 17 murders. However, that number was probably higher because there have been 31 women that have come forward accusing him of assault and torture. He would die in 2014. He got life in prison. He died at the age of 75. What are your opinions on the story? Let me know.
On December 1st, 2007, John Darwin walked into the West End Central Police Station in London, England. Darwin had been missing for over 5.5 years, and now he was back saying, "I think I'm a missing person," and claiming he had no memory of what had happened to him. I covered this case on the most recent episode of my podcast. For all of the insane details, go listen to Inhuman, but here's an overview. John Darwin lived in Hartlepool, England with his wife Anne. They had 2 grown children, Mark and Anthony, and they were just living life. In 2001, Darwin worked as an officer in a men's prison, and Anne was a receptionist for a doctor. The couple also ran several bedsits, which are basically like places where people can come stay. They owned 14 different properties, but they were also in a huge amount of debt. On March 21st, 2001, Darwin decided to go kayaking, so he set off in the early morning in his red kayak. But he didn't return that evening and didn't show up for work, and so he was reported missing. The next day, the paddle he was using was found, and then later that day, his kayak was found completely wrecked. There was a huge search done for him along 62 square miles of the coastline, but there was no sign of him. Anne and her family were extremely distraught, and after a bunch of searching and the wrecked kayak being found, John Darwin was officially declared dead. With that, Anne was able to collect on his life insurance policy and at least start paying off some of the debt while she was grieving the loss of her husband. At one point, one of her sons was visiting her home, checking in on her. When her son left, she opened the door to the bedsit next door to their house and told her husband, "You can come out now." John Darwin wasn't dead, and he wasn't even missing. The whole thing had been a plan to be able to get life insurance money to pay off their debt. For the next several years, John Darwin lived under a fake alias in the England area, sometimes even being brave enough to go out in public and go to the local library. He was able to obtain the identity of a baby who had passed away years ago, and with that, he was able to get a passport. He traveled a bunch and a whole bunch of other crazy stuff happened, so more details on the podcast. But by 2007, John and Anne were planning to move to Panama. They wanted to be able to start a new life there, and so they were trying to get investors' visas. They bought some property there, and while doing so, this photograph was taken of them and posted online. Note the date, 7/4/2006.
Okay.
So they were continuing to get ready to move to Panama, but John was really running into trouble getting the investor's visa he wanted, because to get that visa, the UK police had to verify your identity, and he knew his alias wouldn't hold up. So he came up with a new plan. He was going to turn himself in to the police by saying that he had amnesia and had no clue what had happened. Thankfully, the police were already onto him, and then this picture was discovered by a random member of the public Googling John and Panama. Go to part 2.
So he did all that to fake for some money? Lying to his sons, man? I didn't think that the wife was in on it too, so this was a whole elaborate scam. Things people do for money, man. It's truly mind-blowing. You not desperate, you have to be the fake on death, bro. And to be bold enough to go outside and go to the library, he just didn't care.
Nobody knew who this man was, and nobody knows who he is till this day. All that we know is he erased his identity successfully. This man came in a taxi to a hotel in Northern Ireland from supposedly Austria. He had a fabricated identity. He went by the name of Peter Bergman, and his address was fake. It was somewhere in Austria. The hotel receptionist didn't really think anything of it. He had a thick German accent, and, he could pass for German. Now, he stayed at this hotel for 3 nights, and in those 3 nights, you can see him on the CCTV footage leaving 13 separate times. The weird thing about this, every time he left, he would take something out with him, like his bag or whatever, and he would come back with nothing left or nothing inside of it. Like, sometimes he would leave with a plastic bag filled with items, he would return, nothing in his hands. He had some weird behavior too. Apparently when they were trying to clean his room, they knocked, he wasn't there. Then they entered after a period of time, assuming he wasn't there. He didn't have the do not disturb on his door or anything. And when they broke into it, he looked very spooked, as if, they caught him in the middle of something he shouldn't be doing. The next day he called a taxi to take him to a beach. He asked for beach recommendations at the front desk. He went to the beach, stood there for a few minutes, got back in the taxi, and then went back to the hotel. A little strange, but okay. The next day and the third day, he checked out of the hotel. He had his 3 bags on him, a luggage, a crossbody bag, and then a purple plastic bag. Except the luggage, the suitcase, wasn't the original one he walked in with. It was a completely different one. So what happened to his original one? They didn't catch him leaving with it or anything. It was also never recovered, too. He left with 3 things, the luggage, the paper bag, and then the crossbody bag, whatever it was. And when he got to the bus stop, just a few minutes ahead, he only had 2 of those 3 items on him now. What happened to the third thing? His body was discovered the next day at 6:45 a.m. by a father and son practicing for a triathlon. His luggage and shoulder bag were never recovered. He had random belongings scattered on the shore. He apparently was washed up. However, that's not how he died. An autopsy report revealed a cardiac event. So he had a heart attack and then died. An autopsy was done. They found multiple cancers. He had prostate cancer, bone cancer, and ischemic heart disease. A 5-month investigation was launched to find out who this man was, and despite efforts, nobody ever concluded who exactly he was. What's even sadder, the medical examiner even said, with all these, cancers and the ischemic heart disease, this man was in constant pain all the time. It's likely he was just sick of it and, he was just taking a trip. He knew the end was near. He's now buried in an unmarked grave in Sligo, Ireland. It's not clear how he arrived in Northern Ireland, where his journey began, or where it really ended. Many people thought foul play was involved, but foul play was not involved. Others claim he knew the end was near and he wanted to make peace and just end it here. That's why he had these odd things, going to the beach on the taxi, doing everything else. But nothing is concluded yet. That's just the assumption right now. Will we ever know the bottom of this case? Probably not. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
Like you said, I think he hit the nail on the head. I think he knew the end was near. That's why he went there. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, thank you guys for supporting the channel. Please comment down below. Leave a thumbs up in this video. Also, don't forget to hit that post notification bell so you always get notified when I upload my next videos. You guys are going to catch you in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.